Lilo and Stitch is one of the most beloved animated movies of all time. While it wasn't hugely popular back when it first released, it achieved greater success in recent days and is now widely considered to be a modern Disney classic. It even spawned a huge franchise that consists of animated sequels, even a TV series, and eventually, the infamous live-action adaptation. Usually, Disney live-action movies are sort of a hit or miss. A few can be great, but most are just soulless cash grabs. Lion King. But what about Lilo and Stitch? Does it recapture the original film's charm and spirit? Is it the cash grab that we all predicted? And at the very least, does it improve over the other adaptations? In today's movie review, I will be talking about the live-action Lilo and Stitch and what it did right and what it also got wrong in the process. Before we start though, I just want to clarify that I have loads of other film review videos if you want to check those out. I made a playlist featuring every single one of them, so do be sure to check them out, and also remember to like the video if you do agree with my film review on the live action Lilo and Stitch, and subscribe to my channel if you're new here, and hit that bell icon to see more content on my channel. But anyways, it's time for us to question if Lilo and Stitch can still answer the true meaning of Ohana, as well as if it doesn't get left behind or forgotten in the barren desert of live-action atrocity. Here we go. First off, we're going to talk about this film's realistic approach to the 2002 film by giving it a grounded take to its classic formula. I previously talked about how terrible a live-action Disney film can end up with producers that don't know how to respect a beloved film's heart and charm. But that's not really an issue here. It also helps by giving something new and classic-like for all ages. For newcomers, it will offer you an exhilarating time with family and characters. For old-time viewers, you will perfectly get that nostalgic feeling of when you watch this for the first time. It also completely doesn't rehash itself by not only bringing the original scenes back on screen, but also adding some great scenes that never come off as boring or unneeded. In the process though, there are some changes that most fans may find a bit controversial, but most of the time, it shouldn't really come off as an issue. If anything, it's a way to make the film more packed and enjoyable than it could have been. The voice cast for this movie is just adorable, and I do like how the film doesn't have very talented actors portraying the characters, but still giving out plenty of charm to match what made their counterparts so good. The best example being Maya Kealoha, who not only remains faithful to her original version of the character, but she is so freaking cute as Lilo because you can truly tell on how she focused on the character's original personality / development and her relatable story and relationships she shares along the way. And Chris Sanders also returns as the voice of Stitch, still bringing that original charm into his character, showing his full story and arcs in true fashion. Oh, and speaking of an original cast member returning, there are even a few more classic actors that return here. Examples being Tia Carrere, who voices Nani in the original film, Jason Scott Lee, who voices David in the original film, and Amy Hill, who voices Miss Hasagawa in the original film. It's kind of a charm seeing these new characters interact with the new actors portraying their old characters. You can really see just how far we have come from past to present here. What the original Lilo and Stitch was known for in the past was its strong family themes and messages, and thankfully, this movie still has those all intact, with plenty to share for both young and old audiences. When the film adds some good focus for Lilo and Stitch, despite lots of secondary characters in the mix, they bring about the main themes of ohana and family still resonating with the audiences, even if it did feel forced, as well as people getting used to it 20 years since the original. I previously talked about the original film's themes being family, as well as the struggles of being in one, acceptance, and differences, while showing how friendships heal for those that feel understood. Thankfully, all that is still intact, with Stitch uncovering it all thanks to Lilo's strong aid in the story. If you are a hardcore Lilo and Stitch viewer, you will immediately get the story off by heart, and it will make you fall in love with the characters all over again. Just like its classic predecessor, the Hawaiian culture is extremely great and is perfectly depicted in its true and realistic form, thanks to the visual effects in particular playing a huge job role into making it feel as realistic as possible. What's even better is that it was done on a low budget, which is one reason why this movie initially was going to be a Disney Plus original, like the live action Lady and the Tramp film all the way back in 2019. The original film also had some gorgeous animation, and this movie wants to follow that similar success. Let's also talk about the music that it has to offer, as it also comes together with the Hawaiian culture. It sounds pretty great still, and some new covers for the original are beautiful to listen to. Really, it brings this strong vibe of watching such film during the summertime, which is something I absolutely dig too, as it perfectly gives off the holiday feeling. Finally, for the positives, the writing is surprisingly good for a live action movie, and the direction that they decided to go with does work in its favours, since it adds elements that are just as good as the original, albeit with some that makes some of its padding a little bit too much. More on that later. It's like the writers learned from the past remakes and wanted to stay true to the original film's spirit by at least not making the film feel very slow paced and boring, even though again the pacing is a bit on the fast side, which I will also talk about later. They added in plenty more scenes, like Lilo and Stitch having more antics this time around, and making the whole film feel fresh, as it's not a shot-for-shot remake, not confusing audiences into thinking that it's animated. I'm looking at you, Lion King remake. If this is the direction that Disney is trying to go with to improve its remakes, I think they could definitely do more, especially with the profit they'll make back with this film's box office performance on its low $100 million budget. But now for the negatives that drive this remake down. The first one being that the pacing is a really mixed bag. Sometimes it adds unnecessary scenes to the mix, which is probably a good thing for some, since it doesn't completely rehash the original film's plot, and it all results in underdeveloped moments trying to recapture that slice of magic that the original had. It's a rush trying to catch up on the antics that the beloved pair are doing, making it hard to catch up to the story. It's also worth bringing up the action sequences in this section, as while they're pretty enjoyable like they were in the original, they take away a lot of the elements of the film, losing its focus on the theme of family. Sometimes it tries to be an action spectacle that focuses on cinematography, but that's not what the original was going for at all, because it was the animation that brought the scenes to life. This one tries to capture that same magic, but ultimately fails. Another negative that this movie offers is that it has some serious secondary character development issues. I have two major issues with this, okay? One, it doesn't do a good job on giving major focus to Lilo and Stitch, as they are the main characters that steal the show, but the whole film instead shifts to far too many side characters at the same time, completely changing the film's synopsis. And 2, my boy Captain Gantu isn't here as the big baddie himself. This is the worst example because now the film struggles on who it wants to be the villain. Jumba, Pleakley, or even Cobra Bubbles to say the least. I do understand that it was the reason because the budget was low, and yes, there is a chance that Gantu will make an appearance in a sequel, but if that's the case, stop doing that and just give us the full movie. Don't cut things out that overgoes the budget and save them in a sequel because it becomes very predictable for its audiences. Oh, and the CGI is a bit uncanny as well, despite Stitch's faithful appearance being fine. One more negative this movie has is that it severely lacks the strong emotional hook and depth that the original shot into our hearts. It almost, well not really, comes off as another soulless live-action remake that nobody asked for. Here's an example. Look at the scene with Lilo, Nani and Stitch surfing. The scene was cool to look at, but the original was just way more charming. Look at how much fun these characters were having as they surfed across the waves. It's such a great feeling of family and having fun. This one in the remake just feels extremely forced and boring. The characters are also not really acting like they are doing their best here, since some of their dialogue sound really phoned in. At least Stitch is beautifully animated and remains faithful to his antics like in the original, and Lilo is as charming as ever. But the majority of the cast feels pretty forced. Despite being talented, none of the other characters at times feel like they want to take part in the continuation of this film's story. That's been a major challenge for Disney to overcome with the remakes, and while it's definitely better, they still gotta do way more so that they can still charm audiences of all ages. The live-action Lilo and Stitch is a very solid remake of the original, with its heart and themes all intact still. Compared to Disney's previous outing for a remake, that being the disastrous Snow White, this was definitely a much needed palate cleanser, since it's like it still has a little bit of that magic remaining throughout its scenery. I was worried that it'd be a disaster, but it was better than I was expecting. The performances are also great, especially Maya Kealoha. The Hawaiian culture is as charming as ever. I enjoyed the music, the story has its strong focuses, the direction is good, and the CGI looks nice and not so uncanny. But the slight issues this remake has is that the pacing is a mixed bag and all over the place. The action sequences aren't as enjoyable because they sometimes tend to overstay their welcome. The secondary characters don't have that strong development, and I think there could have been more emotional focus here to help separate it from being a typical soulless remake, which is also a term that people have been calling live action remakes these days, and I'm already getting sick of it. But overall, if you're looking to recapture that nostalgic feeling of seeing Lilo and Stitch back on the big screen, this is definitely not a terrible recommendation, and you could definitely do far worse. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to mention. I wasn't bothered about the ending at all either. I mean, Nani can still be with Lilo with a portal gun, so it doesn't ruin the message much. It's just typical people these days complain too much. Lilo and Stitch is a decent remake of a film everyone knows by heart. If not quite as impactful or emotionally touching as its 2D animated original, Lilo and Stitch still brings the classical charm and spirit back to its adored story, and this time around, Ohana mostly means family. My final score for this remake is a 7 out of 10 and a grade B. It looks to be one of the better remakes to have come from Disney, but it's only just a small step in the right direction. I do think that these types of live action movies do well on recapturing some of that magic that made the audience fall in love with it back in their younger days, and also giving newcomers plenty of surprises, opening their curiosity amongst the series as a whole. But with that being said, leave a like on this video if you guys did enjoy my review on the live action Lilo and Stitch movie, and also remember to subscribe if you are new here, and hit the bell icon to see more content on my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all later. Take care of yourselves.